Hi, this is Steve Mitchell, director of King Cohen, and the co-writer of Chopping Mall, and you are listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I am very pleased to be joined by Laurene here. Laurene Landon of many classic horror movies, and we're going to have fun. Good to have you here.
Yes, we better.
And if not, it'll be a very short interview. Right.
Neil, I'm totally joking. I'm a sardonic wiseacre, okay?
I'm totally fine. I joke a lot too, very sarcastic, so I totally got you.
Good.
So I recently saw the Larry Cohen documentary, King Cohen. Were you about to say something? I'm sorry.
Did?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for having me on your show.
Oh.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you, very thoughtful of you.
No, it's great to have you here. And so anyways, watching
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I was watching the Larry Cohen documentary, and I grew up watching Larry Cohen films. And I noticed you were in many, many Larry Cohen movies.
Maybe 5. Yeah.
And once he wrote.
I met him when I was an amoeba. I met him when I was an amoeba, when I was about, I don't know, 17, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys hit it off right away?
No, not at all. A really funny thing happened. My agent had sent me, at the time it was Beverly Hecht, She was a theatrical agent, and she sent me to this movie called Full Moon High, and it was directed by somebody named Larry Cohen. I didn't know who he was. But anyway, I got to the set, and they had just fired the lead actress, yeah? Mm-hmm. So he asked me if I wanted to play the lead. And I was so terrified when I saw him and all the cameras and everything. I was very burdened, very green. Mm-hmm. So I told him I can't star in the movie because I have an audition that I have to go to. Mm-hmm. Is that the stupidest thing you ever heard? That's what happened. Uh-huh. And he said, "What audition do you have to go to? I'm offering you a lead in this movie. I just fired the lead actress." And I said, I can't stay. I have an audition I have to go to. And I ran out. I ran the hell out of the school, John Burroughs High School, and I went home. And then about an hour later, my agent called, Beverly Hecht, and she spewed all these abusive expletives at me. And she said, "Are you a moron?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Get back over there. They want you back tomorrow." So in the meantime, they had, overnight, they had cast another girl because they were filming. And the girl that they fired was married to, at the time, was married to a very famous actor. I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so they fired her, and then they hired this other girl, Joanne Neal, who was really, really good and beautiful. And so Larry wrote in a part for me. You saw the film, eh? You saw it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm the girl that sees the werewolf all the time and screams and passes out. So I did get offered the lead, but I don't know how to explain it, Neil. I was just terrified when I saw him. I was just terrified because he was so incredibly handsome and so incredibly funny, out of his mind funny. And I don't know how to explain it. I was a kid. I was 18, 19 years old. So.
Yeah. So when you were making that movie, is that when you started to become friends?
Yes. Yes, we became friends for about 2 years. And he was going through a divorce at the time, and he wanted to date, but because he was still married, I wouldn't have anything to do with him. So about 1.5 years later, we started dating each other. Yeah, for quite some time, and then after that, we just became really good friends. Everybody thinks I'm his girlfriend, and I'm not his girlfriend. I'm his best friend for 25, 30 years now. Yeah. His wife is my best friend, Cynthia Costas Cohen. She's a very, very famous therapist in Beverly Hills. And, they have a remarkable relationship. And I see Larry all the time. He is absolutely, incontrovertibly the greatest, kindest, and funniest human being I've ever met. And what people don't understand about Larry is that they think he only does horror movies. He doesn't do horror movies. It really upsets him when people say that he's a horror director, horror writer. He likes to do suspense thrillers. His idol, his mentor was Alfred Hitchcock. So, he got to meet Alfred Hitchcock a couple of times at Warner Brothers, and he was just, in awe of him. And that's what precipitated his desire to make movies, really, was Alfred Hitchcock. People don't know this. I know it because I've known him forever. I know all his secrets, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know he made so many different types of movies until I watched the documentary. And, I worked in TV and did some blaxploitation films, and then he still writes so many scripts today.
Yes, he does. He's got in his basement, Neil, he probably has 400 scripts. And he's got some big deal going with a very famous guy. I can't say his name. It's all over the internet, but I'm not going to say his name. But he's got a series. He's doing with somebody pretty famous. That's all I can say.
Did you see the documentary King Cohen, the finished project?
Yeah, I did. I saw it twice, actually.
Oh, cool.
And both times I saw it was sold out. I saw it once here in L.A., at the Egyptian Theater, and then I saw it in Texas, and it got a standing ovation for about 15 minutes, and then they, because I went, they played Maniac Cop, and then Larry and I did a Q&A next door. So I thought it was a fantastic documentary. It's been picked up, it's got a distributor, and we'll see what happens. What did you think of it when you saw it?
Oh, I loved it. It's very, it's both entertaining and it's very, sometimes documentaries can be depressing or something, but it's very uplifting. I kind of had a smile on my face the whole time. And like I said, I learned, I knew a lot of the movies that I grew up watching in the 80s, but there was a lot of stuff about him I didn't know. And so I just really had a good time.
Like what?
I didn't know that he did like a lot of the blaxploitation movies. I actually didn't even know he did the TV stuff. I forget the name of them. Branded. I didn't know he did the TV show Branded, and which I told I told my brother, and he knew the theme song right away, like they sang in the documentary.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he also did the Invaders.
Yeah. And
the Defenders. And I've been telling Larry for 24 years to get the Invaders made into a feature film. He owns 3/4 of the rights, and I believe Warner Brothers owns some of the rights. But he wants to see if there's an interest, any interest in making it into a feature film. And I keep telling him that everybody would just go see the movie on the name alone, The Invaders, and plus it's you. But, Larry is not an egomaniac. He's not egotistical. And, he is very insecure.
Oh, really?
So, yes, very, very insecure. And I don't care what he says if he hears this, but it's the truth. And, he has a massive following, which he doesn't believe. But he does. And he doesn't. He's computer illiterate, as I am, pretty much. But I keep stressing for him to do a remake of The Invaders. How do you feel about that? Do you think he would?
Yeah, I think
it would be a success.
I definitely think it would be, because a lot of classic TV now is like hip with people because either they grew up with it, and so there's a lot of things going on there. It's a classic TV show, like you said. Larry's involved, and just the idea itself, I think people would be into.
I think so. I think so too. I really believe so, because, like you say, they're rebooting. Pardon me, Neil.
No problem.
They're rebooting a lot of the old classic shows, but a lot of them aren't really hitting it. But I really feel in my heart and soul, I cannot stress enough for him to do. He's got a feature film script for The Invaders, but he just, he needs to see. We need to see, or he needs to see, that people are interested in seeing it. So I really want to get the word out for him to go forward with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't think the millennials or young people or anybody even remembers the Invaders. But, I posted it on Facebook. You may have seen it. And a lot of people want to see it. I want to see a feature film version of it. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think, with the internet, people discover things that either they rediscover stuff they grew up with or discover stuff for the first time that they might have been too young to watch originally.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
exactly.
When you mention about Larry, because I think in the documentary, I don't know if it's the editing or just the persona he's putting across, he comes off very confident in himself. But you said he's
he's
kind of the opposite.
He can be confident. I thought the best part of the documentary was Fred Williams and Larry. Back and forth fighting about the different stunts that Larry had to do. Larry had to do stunts before Fred Williamson would do the stunts in New York. So, falling out of a cab and climbing up a building and climbing up ladders. And, so it was, I thought the best part of the entire documentary was what Fred and Larry were, fisticuffing back and forth. I thought that was absolutely priceless.
Yeah, it was really good. I had the director on a couple weeks ago, Steve Mitchell, and we talked a lot about the movie, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I had a smile on my face the whole time. And I like that he has, when they're showing his room, and he had like all his ideas on Post-it notes all over the wall, and I was like, he really just is like an ID machine, which I believe someone called him in the documentary.
Yeah, Cynthia did, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia. Yeah, he has Post-its all over his walls, all over his office, all over the place, to remind him. And then he comes up with these ideas, and then he sits down and he can write a script in 2 hours, an entire screenplay. But he talks into a tape recorder because, like I said before, he doesn't use computers. Like a lot of people don't use computers. Mm-hmm. So he has other people to do that for him.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in Texas they also showed Maniac Cop, and I just had William Lustig on the show Thursday. What was it like?
That?
It was a lot of fun. We had some technical problems. Besides that, he was very cool to talk to.
Was it a Skype?
Yeah, Skype. He was on the phone, but we used Skype, yeah. So, what was it like to make Maniac Cop, and what was William like as a director?
William Lustig was very focused. He knew exactly what he wanted. I think he's absolutely terrific director, and I keep hearing that they're going to make a remake of Maniac Cop. Yeah. I don't know what he said to you. I don't even know. Is there going to be a remake? Because it's been talked about for about 4 years now.
Yeah, he said they're definitely making it. I don't think he really has any involvement in it, but he said he read the script, and it's not necessarily a remake, but like a re-envisioning of the movie, which I'm not really sure what that means, but I guess it won't really stick to the original movie.
I think it's supposed to be a prequel.
He just said it was a reimagining of the original movie, but I think they've rewritten it several times.
Well, Nicholas, the first one I read was abysmal, and Larry was not happy with it either. He read it, and then I read it, and he did not like it at all. But I think they are redoing it, whatever, so we'll see what happens. I think Nicholas Winding Refn is involved. I think he's supposed to be directing it or producing it or something. So
I don't know if you know this or not, but for it to go forward, does Larry have to give it his okay? Like, does he have to like the script? Okay, that's good though.
Yeah.
So, what was William and Larry? I don't know if you know this or not, but because William said that him and Larry butted heads at some points. They had a good relation sometimes, and sometimes they didn't. Did you ever witness that?
No, I did not. The few times I've been around Larry and William were at different events or at screenings and so forth, and they seem to get along fine in my presence whatsoever. But I don't know what the dynamics are. Larry doesn't understand why Bill doesn't like him, but apparently Bill does not like him, and Larry doesn't know why, and he wants to continue a friendship with him, and I hope that happens, because I think they're both two remarkable men, and their minds are just off the charts. So I don't know.
Yeah. So when you go to the screenings and you see Maniac Cop again, what's it like to watch it with an audience?
Oh, okay, Maniac Cop. Well, what they showed in Texas was Maniac Cop 2. After they showed the documentary, and Maniac Cop 2 was sold out, and I was out of my mind because I didn't care. I was just being myself, my crazy self, and we got people were screaming, laughing, and cheering, and we just had a really great time. But I had never seen the movie before. I had never seen Maniac Cop 2 because I was cut out of the third one, which was fine with me because I was doing so many other different projects, and that was fine. But it was great to see the turnout. I could not believe the turnout in standing room only, and Larry and I were just ourselves. We just it was completely improvised, and there were no questions handed to us. I've never handed questions anyway. Neither is Larry. Some people are asked, questions, or I speak about this or don't speak about that. But we just told it like it was, and they were kind enough to put us up in this unbelievably beautiful hotel where there was a shooting the week before. Somebody got murdered in the hotel the week before. It was a 5-star hotel. But anyway.
Well, what was that for, a festival or anything in Texas?
Sorry?
Was that for a festival in Texas?
Yes, it was for a festival. I forget which one because Larry goes to so many.
Right.
But it was packed. It was absolutely packed. So that was good for him. I was really happy. I was really happy that he got to he got to be enveloped by all these fans that absolutely adore him. So, it's really good for him to know that there are people out there that support him. And I can't emphasize enough how many people love him and how many people follow him and how many people, but he doesn't know because he doesn't have a computer. So I show him on the computer, on Facebook, Twitter, and different places, that I can find. And, but, he lives pretty much in an isolated environment, isolated world. And, he just reads the newspaper. That's all. He reads the newspaper. And, we binge watch like The Handmaid's Tale or different shows on Netflix and so forth. But he doesn't know how to use a mouse. I got a mouse trap one day and I put it by the mouse. I think that's why he never touched the mouse again. It was a joke, of course.
Of course, yeah. Actually,
but his mind is unreal.
Before you got online, before the internet, did you know that these movies had such a following?
Yes, I did.
How did they contact you before the internet?
They would call my agents at ICM or whoever my agents were. They would contact my agents and then telephone me. Yeah.
How about Bruce Campbell in Maniac Cop? What was he like to work with?
Oh, he was insane, out of his mind, crazy, funny, luminous talent, and he's a one-man show. And it was funny to see him doing a horror flick because, Bruce Campbell is just one of the funniest human beings on this planet, and he should have his own reality show, or he should have his own show where he doesn't need a script. Bruce Campbell just gets up and talks. I went to a reunion of Maniac Cop some years ago, about 5 years ago, yeah, and Bill Lustig was there, and Joe Bob Briggs, yeah. Sorry, and we were up on stage, and we were doing a Q&A, and Bruce Campbell wasn't there. I think he was I think it's my own personal feeling, but I think he was possibly upset that he was killed in the second one right away. So, but anyway, he was next door about 5 doors down, and he was doing a one-man show, and the auditorium was standing room only, and he was just talking off the top of his head, improvisation, and I stood at the door for about 5-6 minutes, and he waved to me, and I waved to him, but I don't believe he wanted to have anything to do with us. That's a feeling I got. Otherwise, he would have been on stage with us. But he has his reasons, had his reasons, and so forth. And Bruce is a very successful guy and incredibly talented. And I just, I think he's, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, definitely. So I saw on your IMDb that you have a lot of movies currently you're working on.
Yes, I am. Well, I have a lot I've been working on, and I also have a lot coming out. Right now I have on Amazon Prime, Syndicate Smasher. It's a throwback to the 80s, to the action films like The Expendables and so forth. And the movie's gotten a lot of flack because of the action and that the actors in it, Mel Novak stars in it, and John Miguel and a few other people. But people say, well, they didn't get killed and they didn't get wounded and so forth. But, if you watch The Expendables or any of those kind of movies from the 80s, you'll notice, they all come out unscathed. Mm-hmm. So I play a police detective. That's after. It's basically about mercenaries that are hired as contract killers. And at the same time, they're being pursued by the Yakuza, the Chinese tongs, the Italian mob, and one other faction. But the main guy, Russell DiPolito, played by Nick Avero, is who I am after. My character, Driscoll, is after. They wanted a man for it in the beginning. They sent me a letter in the mail. The producers wanted to use a man, but they had been familiar with all my work, and they asked me if I wanted to play instead of Carl Driscoll, to play Carol Driscoll. And then I read the script, and I thought the script was terrific, and there was a lot of improv that I could do because I love to do improv. So I said absolutely. So I did that, and also I have Netflix. On Netflix is Sky, which I am in with Diane Kruger. And the Hollywood Reporter said, the movie, Laurene's performance is so amazing, you wish the entire film were about her. So my part was much bigger. My part was huge, but it was cut down. I'm not going to go into details, but when you're not the producer, when you're not the money people, then you have absolutely no creative control, and that was okay too. But my part was way bigger than it was, so it's okay. It all works out in the wash, right?
Yeah. You mentioned about improv. I saw another interview you did. You said you had a background in the Groundlings.
No, I was never in the Groundlings. I could never afford to be in the Groundlings. I don't know who said that. I never said that. I tried when I was starting out because I was doing a lot of comedy and at theaters and so forth, and people wanted me to go to the Groundlings, but I went there, and I certainly could not afford it at all. Okay. So, but a lot of famous people have come out of it.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. But so you had a background in comedy, though, something you wanted to do?
Yes, comedy. And what's funny to me is people think that I'm a horror actress or a scream queen, and I'm not. I always think of diversity and longevity. So I'm always trying to do something different. Mm-hmm. For instance, in Netflix, I play a bunny girl, Charlene, on the Vegas Strip. Did you see it by chance?
I have not seen it. I'll check it out, though, because I love Netflix. So.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Sky. It's called Sky. And I did that, and she's just this lost soul on remote control, and I encounter Romy, who's played by what's her name? Can't think of her name right now. Anyway, Diane Kruger, and Norman Reedus is in it as well. But anyway, we become friends, and I just did everything you see is improv, and I got a standing ovation at the Toronto International Film Festival when they screened it there. But anyway, it's on Netflix now, and I have Terror Tales coming out that Jimmy Lee Combs did, and he's this killer young director. When he picked me up at the airport in Colorado, I thought that it was a young man that was going to get arrested for being too young to drive.
Right.
I didn't know it was him because I didn't know what he looked like. So he just said, "Hey, Laurene." Somebody yelled, "Laurene." So I got in the car, as a Polak would do, get in the car. Anyway, so I got in the car, and he says, "Hi, I'm Jimmy." And I said, "Where's Jimmy who?" And he says, "I'm the director." And I laughed, and I said, "What? You're the director?" Because he looks like he's a teenager. He's very youthful looking, but he's very, very capable. Did a phenomenal job of directing this movie, Terror Tales. And they just got a distributor, High Octane, and that's coming out in October. So that's coming out. So is Nation's Fire. That stars Krista Grada, the gorgeous, gorgeous Krista Grada. And I play her mother I play her mom, and Bruce Dern plays my much older husband, and I'm a drunken, psychotic, alcoholic wife. And did a lot of comedy, and that's directed by Thomas Churchill, who I call Sir Thomas Churchill because I just call him Sir Thomas Churchill. That's why. That's all. Yeah. But the feedback that I'm getting from Universal and from the producers is phenomenal. And I just finished Agramon's Gate, directed by Harley Walleen, and that's in Rochester, Michigan. That's where we filmed it. And I play the mother. I'm in a mental institution for 25 years, and I have completely lost my mind because my son killed my husband in front of me to protect me. He shot him in the face, and so I've lost my mind. So anyway, what happens in this movie is, what I love about Harley Walleen is he's a psychological director. He's not one of these knife-wielding, revenge-seeking psycho thriller directors or these torture porn or slasher movies, which I personally don't like, because I'm more interested in the old films, the hunt, the chase, as opposed to the kill, the graphic killing and so forth. But this is a psychological thriller. In the beginning of the movie, there's a seance, and my son is part of the seance. He does not want to be. He thinks it's stupid. But anyway, what is raised is Agramon through a medium, this entity, Agramon. And for people who don't know, Agramon is the left hand of the devil. Agramon is the demon of fear. And what really interested me in this particular film was everybody can relate. There's so much audience identification when it comes to fear. I know fear for me is my constant companion, but this demon preys on fear. And I'm very ecclesiastical, very religious in the movie, even though I'm strapped down in posy restraints. And Agramon comes to see me in the form of my husband, played by Jan Birch, who's been in a lot of horror movies, and he's a great actor, terrific actor. So I've been getting a lot of great feedback from the directors, producers about that, fabulous feedback. They keep saying I'm going to be winning a lot of awards for this performance, because I really lost my mind, and I just went insane. I just played myself, but don't tell them that.
Right. Is that fun to work with young, hungry directors?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by young, hungry.
Someone who hasn't maybe made a lot of movies, so they're hungry to, passionate about making their movies.
Harley makes 6 films a year. Harley Walleen makes 6 films a year. Oh, yeah. He has a movie coming out called Moving Parts, and Artificial Loyalty, and he's doing a movie called Abeyance coming up, and quite a few other films. He's an absolute masterful director, and I don't know how old he is. I think he's maybe in his 40s, but he's very, very well respected in the industry, and he reminds me so much of Robert Aldrich, who directed me in there's Steven Spielberg, Go away. Sorry. Anyway, I'm joking. No, he's just an incredible director and very giving, and I can't emphasize enough how much he reminds me of Robert Aldrich. And Harley writes his own movies, he directs them, he co-stars in some of them, but he's a very, very giving director, and because he's an actor, he understands what it's like to be an actor. So he doesn't just say cut, and he also lets you improvise. And even though I was tied down, I told him a couple of times, because I'm tied down in posey restraints, I can't do anything. So here's what I would like to do. And he God bless him, he said fine. He let me go. He let me go, and he let me go crazy. So there's his beautiful wife, Katie Wallin, stars in it. She is an incredibly talented young actress, and she's going to be a very big star, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. What kind of movies do you like? Not ones you star in, but what kind of movies do you watch?
I love all the old movies that I watch with Larry, James Cagney, Marlon Brando. I like Handmaid's Tale, currently Handmaid's Tale, Looming Tower. I like anything really on cable, because I feel that the mainstream TV shows, I feel that they insult the intelligence of the viewer. Whereas with cable, you have to really think. You have to think and follow the story. But a lot of the shows on regular TV, for me, are mindless entertainment. So, but that's how I feel. Everybody's different. That's just how I feel.
No, I do think in the last 10 years, or maybe a little longer, basic cable and pay cable have some of the best TV shows. Since Sopranos.
Like what?
I love Sopranos when it was on. But currently, I like the first season of Westworld. I'm not too crazy over the second season currently. Better Call Saul, I really liked.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, and I love Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
I think Breaking Bad was the best story arc from the first season to the last season of any show. There was never like a bad season, and I think it really had a great arc of the character.
There's a terrific arc of the characters, all the characters actually.
Yeah.
And I was so sad to see the show end, but I don't know. And then Better Call Saul is so damn funny.
Yeah.
I love that show. Yeah. Did you see House of Cards? Do you like House of Cards?
I did not see House of Cards. It's been recommended to me many times. That's something I probably should watch at some point. It is nice now that you can binge watch shows. Like before, it's something you really couldn't do. If you didn't catch it live, like you probably wouldn't have seen it. But now you can go and watch stuff on Netflix from season 1. Oh
yeah. Yeah, House of Cards is the first show, believe it or not, that was binge watched. That's what I've been told. I thought it was Breaking Bad, but it's not. It was House of Cards. That's what I've been told by people. So, but I think it's a shame what happened with Kevin Spacey. He was my favorite actor. No, my favorite actor is Tom Hardy. I'm sure you know who Tom Hardy is.
Oh yeah, of course.
He looks like a young Marlon Brando, but I think his I think he's a better actor than Marlon Brando. He's phenomenal. I would love to work with him someday.
Yeah, he's great.
But
have you ever seen Peaky Blinders? He has a recurring role in Peaky Blinders, which is a really good show. It's on Netflix. Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely, love Peaky Blinders. And Taboo. Did you see him in Taboo?
I've not seen Taboo. I don't know why yet, but I definitely have to watch it. It looked great from the trailers.
The funny thing about Tom Hardy is he's so damn handsome and so talented, but he's always wearing a mask. If you think of almost every movie he's ever been in, almost every movie, he's always wearing a mask. I don't know why, or a beard, or he's got a beard. Like in Taboo and like not Blade Runner. What was it called? The remake of Bane.
Yeah,
Bane.
Bane
and,
and Batman.
But, Batman. And
interesting.
But he's always got a beard, or he's always got a mask on. He did the remake of what was the remake he did? I can't think of it right now.
I should look. But yeah, that's interesting to bring that up. Just if I'd have to take a guess, maybe it's because he doesn't want to rely on his looks. He wants to more about his talent. So to cover up his looks, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess.
I never, that's very profound of you to say that. That's probably could be why, but I don't think he thinks he's attractive or handsome. I've never gotten that from any interview he's ever done. He does very few interviews, but he never seems to have an air of nobility or anything. He's very humble. He's a very humble man, and I think he's the greatest talent that we have in the cinema, the greatest gift of the cinema that we have. So,
yeah, definitely. I was 2 years ago. I was sick and I was in the hospital for a while, and so I didn't really much to do. So I had diverticulitis, which I don't know if you know what that is. It's little. Well, it starts as diverticulosis. It's little holes in your colon, and then like seeds and nuts and stuff.
You can't have strawberries.
There's certain things I can't eat. Right? Yeah, I didn't know I had it until I had a really bad pain in my side, and I went to the hospital, and they just sent me home with no pain medication or anything. And in 2 days, it was much worse, and I went into the hospital, went to the emergency room, and they took me right away for emergency surgery. What happened was my colon perforated, and so my body was filling up with all the toxins. My colon perforated.
Perforated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they had an emergency surgery. Huh?
Bleeding and turning?
Yeah, well, and all the toxins and stuff, all the waste was going into my body, so I was dying. And
oh my God.
So they removed 14 inches of my colon. When I woke up, I had a colostomy bag, which was, pretty terrible to live with. And,
no.
So I was in there but months later, because they told me if I got into better shape and healed up, they could do reversal surgery, which they did about 4 months after that. And so I don't have the So then they reconnect me inside. So they reconnected my colon and everything. So, I don't have to have the colostomy bag anymore.
Was it the large intestine?
Yeah,
Pardon me.
Yeah,
or
they
the
removed
small intestine?
Well, I believe it's a large, and then they reconnect it to the colon. So, I'm like reconnected inside. But I have a big hole in my stomach here where the surgery was, and I have 72 staples.
I'm so sorry.
But I'm doing good now. Yeah, I just have to stay away from certain things. But yeah, thank you.
Serious, I've lost 2 friends recently to pancreatic cancer, and they both had pain in their side. So when you said you had pain in your side, I was thinking, oh dear God, but you had already mentioned diverticulitis, so thank God it was. You must have lost a lot of weight, eh?
Yeah, I lost like over 40 pounds at the time. Yeah. So, it was surgery, then I was in rehab, and then I came home, and then I had the other surgery, and then there was a lot of complications from that surgery, and it was basically like 6 months. It was, not a good period of time.
6 months?
Yeah, altogether, between the 2 surgeries and rehab, and after the second surgery, I started to bleed out.
Oh, no.
It was, What? It's very bad.
What do you mean bleed out?
Well,
what do you mean?
Well, so they didn't sew the hole together because they wanted it to go together naturally. There's less chance of
infection.
Right. So I had this thing called a wound vac, which I had to carry around with me all the time. And so it's like a sponge you kind of stick in the wound, and then it was this vacuum that would suck out all the if there's blood or dead tissue and all that stuff. And I had a visiting nurse every day coming to the house, and it was completely full with bright red blood, and she was like, this is not right. And so when she took the sponge out, it just started to spurt blood like in a movie, just flying out.
Right.
And so she called the ambulance, and so they rushed me to the hospital, and I had trauma sheets on that they put on like if you have a gunshot. And I honestly thought I was dying because I didn't think anyone could lose that much blood and be all right. And when I got to the hospital, they had to cut me out of my clothes because it was just soaked in blood from my socks
Oh
all the
my
way
God.
and but then they got in time and I got stitches. And then I was readmitted to the hospital, and that happened 2 more times because they said it was the wound was so close to an artery, and eventually, I had to have blood transfusions, and
Oh,
eventually it was all
jeez.
right. But it was a long experience.
You should write a movie about your life. This is a movie, it sounds like.
Yeah, someone else suggests I should write it down, which maybe I should sometime.
You should. You should journal it, write it down. It sounds. I'm so sorry, but how are you doing now?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I have scars, but besides that, I feel probably better than I had in years. Because I probably had that for a long time. I just didn't know it. And yeah, I'm doing. I got to stay away from certain foods. I can't eat popcorn, nuts,
Right.
seeds, and different
Because of the
things.
seeds, eh? The
Yeah.
seeds and so
Yeah.
forth.
hmm
What else what else? Strawberries. You can't have strawberries, obviously,
Yeah. Anything
right?
with a lot of seeds in, like the strawberries have the little black seeds. Um,
So what would happen? How do you get diverticulitis in the first place?
They say they
How do you
say
get?
that yeah, they say that you don't they don't really know, just some people have it. They think it's a big thing in America as opposed to other countries because we consume so much corn, and corn I can't eat corn either. Corn will get stuck in it. And
Right,
since everything has
right.
corn in it now, with corn syrup and everything, they think that's why it's almost only Americans that really have it. But they're not really sure.
So you okay now?
Yep, I'm good. It was 2 years ago, and like I said, it was a long recovery, but yeah, I feel good. I walk every day, and I'm doing good. I can
Well, just
travel and
think of your
everything.
scars as a badge of courage.
Yeah,
Your scars. You said you have a stomach. You have a scar on your tummy, eh?
yeah. I've
Just
got
think of it
two.
as a badge of courage because it certainly beats the
Right, it was either that or
alternative.
yeah, I would have just died very painfully. The doctor told me afterwards, but doesn't want to scare you at first, I guess. But yeah, it was a long experience. So
Wow.
where do we go from here? So, how about all the marbles? I don't know where you go from. We talk about almost dying here. Uh, did you have to do any wrestling training to do all the marbles?
Oh yes, we had to go to school. First of all, they they saw 2,000 girls, eh?
hmm
And they couldn't train them to act. They saw wrestlers, and they tried to get the wrestlers to act, and they could not. So they went the opposite way,
hmm
and they went and looked for actresses they could train to wrestle. Now, my experience, lucky for me, was that I was always a tomboy
hmm
growing up, right? I was always a tomboy playing baseball, basketball, tennis, and pitcher, and always getting awards. Um, like a lot of people get awards, for scholastics for sports. And my father always wanted us kids to be in sports. He didn't want us dating boys at all. And my daddy was always in Canada because mom was always stealing his money. So he always had to go back to Canada to get away from my mom. And they were always fighting, and the cops were always at the house. So, yeah, so, my athletic prowess really played a big part in my getting this film. And a lot of, when the actors strike hit, like I said, they saw 2,000 girls altogether. They narrowed it down to 12. Robert Aldrich screen tested 12 of us, and then from that, he narrowed it down to 4. And the 4 of us went to wrestling school for, I would say, altogether 6 months. And Mildred Burke, who was a very, very
Yeah,
famous wrestling coach
know the
from the
name.
40s,
hmm
she was about 5 feet tall, if that. And she was our wrestling coach, and some Spanish Mexican wrestlers were unbelievably talented, and they taught us how to wrestle. So during the actors' strike, Vicki and I went ahead and continued to go to the gym out on White Oak, way out in the valley in Reseda, and we kept wrestling. That's all we were driven. We were just driven, and plus I loved it. I loved the exercise. I loved the wrestling. I loved jumping off the ropes and doing flying mares, drop kicks, and all this kind of stuff. And some people might be lazy, whatever. But Vicki Frederick and myself, especially Vicki, because she was a dancer on Broadway. So we loved getting together with the wrestlers and wrestling, and we would have done it anyway. We did it for free. We went to wrestling school. We were getting $800 a week when Robert Aldrich and MGM sent us to wrestling school. We were getting $800 a week, and back then that was a lot of money. And so when the actor strike hit, as you know, nobody got paid for anything, but Vicki and I didn't care. We just could not wait to get to the gym. So it really paid off. We both were very, very competitive, and I always did my own stunts, always in all my films, in Hunter, Yellow Hair, America 3000. I'm still a stunt woman to this day, but I just loved wrestling, and I don't know, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Did you have any interest in wrestling at all before that, or was it something once you started to train you found that you enjoyed?
No. Most people don't know this, but how I got the audition in the first place was I was up in Las Vegas for the Miss Black Velvet pageant, and they narrowed it down to 2 girls, and they flew me up to Vegas, and there was a Spanish girl and myself, and she got it, and she deserved it. And anyway, while I was up there, I met this wonderful casting director named Jackie Baskow. And she told me, she said, "My God, you're so athletic, you're so tall, you're so muscular. They're casting a movie down in Los Angeles at MGM called All the Marbles." And I didn't know what that was at all. I was 19. And she said, "I really think you should go meet this casting director named Reuben Cannon." I didn't know who Reuben Cannon was. I didn't know who Robert Aldrich was. I thought he was Robert Altman. When I met him, when I finally met Robert Aldrich, I said, "It's just an honor and a privilege to meet you, Mr. Altman." And he said, he laughed. He said, "What did you just call me?" And I said, I was terrified. He's at this big studio, MGM. He's a big shot, I had heard. And I said, "Mr. Altman." And he said, "No, that's another guy. He does a lot of theater. He does movies, but he does a lot of theater, Robert Altman." And I said, "Well, what's your name?" I was so stupid. He said, "My name is Robert Aldrich." He said, "You need to go look up some of my movies." And I said, "Oh, yes, sir, I will, sir." And so anyway, he thought I was very naive and daring, and he couldn't believe the stunts that I was able to do. He couldn't believe my physical prowess. He couldn't believe it. And so he sent us to wrestling school. The actor strike finally ended, and then we had to go to MGM, and we had to wrestle for the studio brass, David Beagleman, everybody. And the wrestlers were there, and the wrestlers who trained us were there. And after it was all over, we were there probably 5-6 hours. Bob Mackie was there, the famous dress designer. And anyway, after it was all over, they called us to Robert Aldrich's office and made us wait outside. And one of the girls had broken her wrist. Melanie had broken her wrist. So she was out. So it was 3 of us now, see. So one girl got called in first, and she never came out. She went out a back door. And then I got called in second. And I walked into the room, and there's Robert Aldrich and his son, producer Bill Aldrich, and all these studio people. And I was terrified. But so he was looking out the window. I'll never forget this as long as I live. He was looking out the window, and he said, "You did a really, really great job." you worked really, really hard. I've been watching you. I've been watching how hard you work and all the stunts that you do and trying to outdo yourself and how you went to school when you weren't supposed to go to school. And I said, you know that? And he said, I know everything. And then I said, oh, uh-oh. I thought, uh-oh. And he keeps staring out the window and just looking out the window. And he says, yeah, you did a really good job. Mm-hmm. And I screamed, but you don't want me for your movie, do you? And I started to cry. And he turns to me and he says, no, why are you crying? He says, I said, but, because I know you wanted to play the role of Iris, but you're not going to play Iris. You're going to play the role of Molly. And I said, stupidly, of course, being blonde and Polish, I said, are you serious? You want me in your film? Why? So don't ask, Neil. Don't ask. So he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go outside and tell Vicky it looks real bad for her, and she didn't get it. I said, I can't do that, sir. He said, get out there right now and tell Vicky it looks real, real bad for her. Just tell her that. And I said, that's horrible. And he said, of course it is. And so I went out front, and Vicky was sitting there by herself, and she's looking up at me with hope and like, what happened? What happened? And she says, well. And I said, well, it's your turn to go in right now, Vicky. And she says, and I said, I'm really, really sorry, but it doesn't look good for you. She said, what? And I said, no, it doesn't look good. I'm sorry. It looks really bad. Oh. And she said, oh, no. So she goes in through the doors, looks at me and goes in through the doors. And then I hear screaming and yelling and something about, I'm going to kill you, Laurene. I'm going to kill you. Because, of course, she went in and she got the part of Iris. So she was ecstatic. But I just did what I was told to do because keep in mind, I'm from Canada, you know, and this is my first big movie. This is what at the time was a $12 million feature film. This is 25 years ago, something like that. And you know, this is a studio, MGM, and every day I drove on the lot, I could not believe that I was here. I kept thinking to myself, they're gonna get wise to me. They're gonna get wise and fire me. So, but that's what happened. That's how I got the part. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent.
No, that's very interesting. That's weird that he would make you do that. Were you two okay after that? Yeah.
Sorry?
Were you two okay after that? Like to work on the movie after you told her, you know, that it didn't look good for her? Yeah.
Yeah, we got along fine. You know, she was very limber. Had been on Broadway, dancing in Broadway, and a lot of Broadway shows. So, you know, it was. We came from different perspectives. Mine was from, you know, sports, you know, growing up and so forth, and being athletic. And hers came from ballet and dancing on Broadway. So, you know, it worked out. We amalgamated our, you know, histories together, and it just worked out. Yeah. So.
That might be a show you might want to watch on Netflix's G.L.O.W, season 2 starting.
Yeah.
And it's similar to your story there.
Oh, yeah, it was based on all the Marvels. G.L.O.W was based on all the Marvels. Because, how funny you say that, because I was at a charity event last night, and it was for Tourette syndrome. And I was interviewed by a lot of different media outlets, and one of them were two beautiful 6-foot-tall women, and one of them said, I'm with Women of Wrestling. Can I please interview you? I know who you are and how everything started about G.L.O.W. And I said, oh, how do you know that? And she said, everybody knows. Can you please do an interview? I said, absolutely, I'd be happy to. But what happened was a long, long time ago, after all the Marvels, Matt Simber came up to me and he says, I got this idea. I want you to play a California doll. And I said, but I played a California doll in all the Marvels, Molly. And he said, yeah, I know that, but I want you to play a California doll in this show I've got. It's called G.L.O.W. And I said, what's G.L.O.W? And he said, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. So I thought that was a really cool idea, but my agents at ICM said no. They did not want me to, keep doing wrestling stuff because I had the Jury coming up with Armand Desante and Airplane 2, and I was very blessed. I was getting offered parts, and so they didn't want me. ICM didn't want me to do the G.L.O.W. show, and it became a smash, by the way. And Matt Simber told me one time at the Beverly Rodeo when we had lunch years later, that he said, if it wasn't for you, I would have never come up with this idea. He came up with the idea with a friend of his. I don't know the gentleman's name, but I really believe in my heart that Matt Simber came up with this idea because he told me I got a concept, I got this idea in my head. So anyway, getting back to what you were saying is I met some ladies last night, Mo and Dahlia, and they want to have me on their show again at length, and they want to figure out something to do with wrestling. So yeah, G.L.O.W.'s a huge hit, and everybody's saying that the blonde Betty Gilpin on the show is my character from All the Marbles. So I don't know if that's true at all.
Yeah.
But I would love to do a guest appearance on the show. But whatever.
Yeah. It's really similar to the story you just told about how you got involved in All the Marbles. So I could definitely
see it. And Matt Simber's supposed to be Matt Simber. You've seen the show, correct?
Yeah.
Have you seen the show? Well, Matt Simber is supposed to be the salacious,
character.
kind of scummy manager.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Matt Simber. So, but I think it's a terrific show. And at first I couldn't get into it. I thought it was too documentary-ish or there was no character development at all. But as time went on, Larry Cohen insisted on watching more and more episodes, and we did. And it got better and better, and I think it's coming back, yeah?
Yeah, season 2's starting, I think, pretty soon. I know that they're making it anyway. I'm not sure when it starts, but...
Yeah.
I've interviewed some of the original G.L.O.W. wrestlers from the G.L.O.W. wrestling.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. And they're very interesting. And I watch it at the time, too.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we had a screening at the Egyptian Theater of my film Hundra about a month and a half ago, and it was sold out, which I could not believe, but it was sold out. And sitting to my right, before the show started, were two girls that told me they were the original G.L.O.W. girls, and they were wonderful. We took a lot of pictures together, and they told me a lot of stories that I won't go into, but it was. So who did you interview from the G.L.O.W. girls?
See it at Hollywood, Babe the Farmer's Daughter. There was two just recently. I forget the names, but I'm actually going to be interviewing Matilda the Hun at some point. She was one of the more famous ones, and she was on Married with Children and some other movies, and I forget her. That was her wrestling name, Matilda the Hun, but she had another name. I forget. Do
you like wrestling?
Yeah.
Neil, do you like wrestling?
Yeah. I grew up watching wrestling.
See, I think what happened with All the Marbles was it was ahead of its time. It predated Cyndi Lauper.
Right.
And a year or two later, Cyndi Lauper came forward with her wrestler guy, and it became a big hit. But unfortunately, the film didn't do well here. It was a big hit in Europe, but it was not a hit here at all. But it truly was ahead of its time.
Yeah, because that was a big part of the first WrestleMania is Cyndi Lauper's involvement.
Yeah.
With Captain Lou and because Captain Lou's even in the big video for Girls Just Want to Have Fun. He played her father in it. Captain Lou Albano, he was like the evil manager, but he had probably very memorable looking guy because he had like not bandits. He had rubber bands in his cheeks, and he always he was a big guy, and yeah.
What do you mean? Outside? Glued outside?
I think he had him pierced through his cheek somehow. It was very, very strange. And he always wore like a Hawaiian shirt, but it was open. And he's a big guy with a hairy chest and like
So
a big
funny.
beard. And yeah, he played. Do you remember Do you remember the video for Girls Just Want to Have Fun? I know it's a while ago, but
Of course.
yeah,
Oh,
he
it's
plays
fabulous.
her. He plays her father in that video. He gets like angry.
It's one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah,
I still love
definitely.
dancing to that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So, actually, how can people, if they want to get in touch with you, how can they follow you online?
Oh, please go to IMDb. Please, please, I would really, really appreciate it if people would go to IMDb and give my page a like. And I'm mostly on LinkedIn now. I'm on Facebook too, but I have 5,000 friends, and
Yeah.
honestly, without bragging at all, there's 4,000 in line that there just are.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can reach me on IMDb or LinkedIn or my website, LaureneLandon.biz. And I have a whole bunch of brand new pictures there, and some are stills from the films I've done. Some of the films are not out yet, like Nation's Fire, directed by Thomas Churchill, Agrimon's Gate, directed by Robert Aldrich, Mr. Harley Wallen, and Terror Tales, directed by Jimmy Lee Combs. But yeah, please try to go to LaureneLandon.biz and look at my pictures. And if you want to buy a picture, that would be great. It would be awesome, and I'll sign it. Sign it for you and so forth. But yeah, LaureneLandon.biz is probably the best place to go to.
All right, very cool. I appreciate coming on tonight. Today I had a lot of fun talking with you.
What time is it there? Thank you. What time? Same here. What time is it there?
About almost 5 o'clock.
Oh, it's happy hour, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
I
you're
call
probably
it
on those.
unhappy hour because I can't drink.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can't for medical reasons, or?
No, I'm an alcoholic.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
Well, I'm going.
Everybody. No, not everybody. No, I'm an alcoholic and I can't drink. That's it. So. But I wish I could. All my friends drink and I'm happy for them, but I can't drink. I'd like to say one thing and final thing, if that's possible.
Yeah, of course.
Most people don't know this, but I would really like the truth to come out about puppy mills. I am a very, very staunch advocate of rescuing, such as this is, you can't see him, but this is, yeah, this is what I'm going to use in my next movie, Robo Woman. This is a pit bull. I got him online, and he's non-binary, and because he represents all pit bulls, and his name is Liberty. But anyway, I would plead, implore, more than my acting career, more than anything we've discussed, except for your diverticulitis, of course, is to please rescue and look up the horrors of puppy mills, because, these puppy mills, there's thousands of them and thousands that people are not aware of. But what they do is pack cages on top of each other, and the females are bred until they die, or till they're so sick and they get diseases, and it's just terrible what goes on. So please rescue. Please don't breed for greed. Please rescue. There's 7.5 million dogs and cats in the shelters, and there's only 5,000 shelters in the country. That's it, 5,000. So 690,000 dogs and cats are put to death every year. And 3.5 million of those are cats, and 3 million are dogs. So please, I wish everybody would rescue. It just perpetuates animal abuse by buying a dog from a breeder or from these puppy mills. And in closing, I would just like to say, please rescue, and rescue responsibly.
Very good. I agree with that sentiment. it's been great to have you on. And when your other movies come out, you're always welcome back on to talk about them.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about all the mess with the Skype and all that. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's worked out fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Hey there, this is Lee Winnell, writer and director of the film Upgrade and the co-creator of Saw and Insidious, and you are listening to Without Your Head.